the United States of America stood on the edge of collapse. Not from a foreign invasion. Not from economic ruin. But from within. For decades, tensions had been rising beneath the surface, quiet at first, political, almost manageable. Debates in Congress. Angry speeches. Compromises made, and broken. But beneath those arguments was something far deeper. Two visions of America. Two economic systems. Two moral philosophies. Two futures. What began as political disagreement would erupt into the bloodiest conflict in American history. Brother against brother. Father against son. Neighbor against neighbor. This was not simply a war over land or law. It was a war for identity. A war for power. A war for the soul of a nation. This is the story of the American Civil War. The causes. By the mid-19th century, the United States was no longer united in spirit. The North was transforming. Factories roared with machinery. Railroads stretched across states. Cities grew rapidly, fueled by immigration and industry. The South was different. Its wealth came from land, vast cotton plantations that fed global markets. Cotton had become king. But cotton depended on one thing: slavery. By 1860, nearly 4 million enslaved African Americans lived in the southern states. Their forced labor powered the southern economy. To the north, slavery was increasingly seen as morally wrong and economically outdated. To the south, it was seen as essential, not only to survival, but to social order. Every new territory entering the Union raised the same explosive question: free state or slave state? Compromises delayed conflict. They did not prevent it. Then came the election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860. Lincoln did not promise to abolish slavery where it already existed. But he firmly opposed its expansion into new territories. For many Southern leaders, this was unacceptable. If slavery could not expand, they believed, it would eventually die. And so, one by one, Southern states chose secession. They left the Union. They formed a new nation, the Confederate States of America, led by Jefferson Davis. For the first time in its history, the United States was divided against itself. The Union was breaking apart. The war begins. April 12, 1861. In the early morning darkness, Confederate artillery opened fire on Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor. Cannons thundered. Smoke filled the sky. After 34 hours of bombardment, Union forces surrendered the fort. The Civil War had begun. What many on both sides believed would be a brief show of force quickly became something else entirely. The North mobilized armies to preserve the Union. The South mobilized to defend its independence. The Union versus the Confederacy. Two flags. Two governments. One battlefield. And neither side was prepared for what was coming. Early battles. The first major clash came at the First Battle of Bull Run in 1861. Spectators arrived with picnic baskets, expecting a spectacle. They left in terror. The battle descended into chaos. Soldiers fled. Command broke down. The illusion of a quick victory shattered. Though smaller in population and industry, the Confederacy held early advantages. Many of its officers were experienced military men. One of the most respected was General Robert E. Lee. A brilliant strategist who inspired fierce loyalty from his troops. Again and again, Southern armies defied expectations. Battles at places like Antietam and Fredericksburg left fields soaked in blood. The war was no longer romantic. It was brutal. Disease spread through camps. Hospitals overflowed. Families received letters announcing unimaginable loss. Both sides began to understand, this war would demand everything. The turning point. July 1863. The small town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. For 3 days, Union and Confederate forces clashed in what would become the largest battle ever fought on American soil. Artillery roared. Infantry advanced across open fields under relentless fire. When it ended, more than 50,000 men were dead, wounded, or missing. The Union held the ground. It was a decisive victory. Almost simultaneously, Union forces captured Vicksburg, gaining full control of the Mississippi River. The Confederacy was split in two. Supply lines were broken. Momentum shifted. From this point forward, the South would fight not for victory, but for survival. Emancipation. In the midst of war, President Lincoln made a decision that would redefine the conflict. On January 1, 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation. It declared that enslaved people in Confederate-held territory were free. The war was no longer fought solely to preserve the Union. It became a moral struggle against slavery itself. African American men began joining the Union Army in large numbers. By the end of the war, nearly 200,000 black soldiers had served. They fought not only for the Union but for their own freedom. Their bravery changed the course of the war. And the meaning of America. The end. By 1865, the Confederacy was collapsing. Cities lay in ruins. Food was scarce. Armies were exhausted. Union General Ulysses S. Grant relentlessly pursued Lee's forces through Virginia. On April 9, 1865, at Appomattox Courthouse, Robert E. Lee surrendered. The fighting was over. The Union was preserved. Soon after, the 13th Amendment would abolish slavery permanently. But victory came at a devastating cost. Over 600,000 Americans had died. The nation was saved. But it was scarred. Tragedy. Peace had barely begun when tragedy struck. On April 14, 1865, President Abraham Lincoln attended a play at Ford's Theater. That night, he was shot by John Wilkes Booth. The leader who had guided the nation through its darkest hours was gone. The country that had survived civil war now entered an uncertain future without its most steady voice. Conclusion. The Civil War transformed the United States forever. It ended slavery. It preserved the Union. It redefined citizenship and freedom. But it also left wounds that would take generations to heal. The echoes of that conflict still shape politics, culture, and identity in America today. History is not distant. It lives in the present. And the story of the Civil War reminds us that nations are not only built by victories, but tested by their divisions. The Civil War changed America forever. But this was only one chapter. Next, we explore what happened after the war. Reconstruction. Division. A nation trying to rebuild itself. If you want powerful history told like this, hit subscribe. Because this channel is building something bigger. And you don't want to miss what's coming next.